The Netherlands is one of those countries that seems familiar, even if you've never been there. You've probably seen the canals, the bicycles, the windmills, and the endless fields of flowers. But there's much more to the country than the images we're used to seeing. From cities shaped by centuries of history to places that were completely rebuilt and transformed, each city has its own character. So in this video, we're going to take a look at 5 of the most beautiful and fascinating cities in the Netherlands, and discover what makes each one different. Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a city that seems to have been designed around water. Its famous canals cut through the historic center, lined with narrow houses that have stood here for centuries. But what makes the city interesting is not simply the canals themselves. It is the way everyday life continues to revolve around them. Much of Amsterdam's historic character comes from its development during the Dutch Golden Age. Wealth from international trade helped transform the city, and merchants built the narrow canal houses that still define its center today. One of the most striking things about Amsterdam is how closely its buildings stand together. Many of these houses are narrow because properties were historically taxed according to their width, creating the distinctive rows of tall, slender buildings seen throughout the city. But Amsterdam isn't simply an open-air museum. Behind the historic facades is a modern city where bicycles often outnumber cars on the narrow streets. Perhaps that is what makes Amsterdam so recognizable. The city has managed to preserve much of its historic appearance while allowing modern life to continue inside it. Rotterdam. Rotterdam doesn't look like most Dutch cities. Much of its historic center was destroyed during the Second World War, forcing the city to rebuild itself in a completely different way. Rotterdam's story is also a story about water. Its enormous port connects the Netherlands with the rest of the world, stretching for dozens of kilometers along the river and handling ships, containers, and goods from across the globe. One of Rotterdam's most recognizable landmarks is the Erasmus Bridge. Its enormous white pylon rises above the Nova Moss, while cables stretch outward like the strings of a giant harp. Locals have even given it a nickname, the Swan. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Rotterdam is that its modern appearance was never simply an attempt to look futuristic. Today, that history is visible in almost every part of the skyline. Utrecht. Utrecht is one of the oldest cities in the Netherlands, with a history stretching back almost 2,000 years. It grew into one of the country's most important religious and cultural centers. Dominating the center of Utrecht is the Dom Tower, the tallest church tower in the Netherlands. For centuries, its silhouette has stood above the city, making it one of the first landmarks visitors see when they arrive. But Utrecht's canals have something Amsterdam's famous waterways don't. Along the Hague, the streets sit above lower-level wharves and terraces built directly beside the water. Utrecht has been transformed by cycling. But here, bicycles aren't simply a way to get around. They are part of the city's infrastructure, with enormous bicycle parking facilities built close to the railway station to accommodate the daily flow of commuters. The Hague isn't the capital of the Netherlands, but it is where much of the country's political power is concentrated. Parliament, government ministries, and the office of the Prime Minister are all based here. But The Hague's influence doesn't stop at the Netherlands. The city has become one of the world's most important centers for international justice, home to institutions such as the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. The Hague also has a long connection with the Dutch royal family. Noordeinde Palace sits in the heart of the city, while nearby streets mix royal buildings with elegant shops, cafes, and quiet residential neighborhoods. The city opens onto the North Sea. Scheveningen is The Hague's famous seaside district, where the atmosphere changes from government offices and historic buildings to beaches, waves, and a long waterfront stretching toward the horizon. Delft is much smaller than Amsterdam or Rotterdam, but walking through its historic center can feel like stepping into another century. Narrow streets, quiet canals, and centuries-old buildings have survived remarkably well. Delft was also home to Johannes Vermeer, one of the Netherlands' most celebrated painters. He spent almost his entire life here, and centuries later, the quiet streets, canals, and light of Delft still feel remarkably similar to the world captured in his paintings. The area around Delft is part of a landscape where agriculture, greenhouses and flower production have become deeply connected to Dutch life. In spring, fields across the country can transform into enormous bands of color, creating one of the landscapes the Netherlands is famous for.